INCRadio, DCEM 954, the voice of truth, the official radio station of the Church of Christ or Iglesia ni Cristo.
Welcome to INC Radio Florida. Today, of course, is Saturday, March 8th, and it's about 9:30 in the morning here on the East Coast of the United States, which means it's already past the bedtime for many people that are watching us there in Asia. It's about 10:30 there in the Philippines, and of course, we're always very grateful that you're staying up late to watch us, especially today, because if you're staying up this late and you're watching us, you're probably also kind of going through your social media and seeing what's going on in the world. Well, today the show is going to be perfect for you because it's going to help you try to stay cool, that cool persona in your social media behavior. But we're going to be talking about the differences between being cringy or cool on social media and how it is that you can make that assessment. But before we get started, my name is Brother Robert. I'm here in Tampa, Florida, of course, in the sunny west coast of Florida. I'm joined today by a wonderful group of hosts that are going to be joining us as well. And let's start off by jumping to Sister Joy, who happens to be our host there in the Central Florida, Orlando area. Good morning, Sister Joy. How you
Good
doing?
morning, Brother Robert. Thank you for that. And good morning, good evening, bonjour, buenos dias, guten morgen, magandang umaga. But it's not actually morning right there
It's,
in the Philippines.
it's
So magandang gabi there in the Philippines. We're so grateful that all of you are joining us today. Be sure that you go into our YouTube chat. Let us know where you are. Where you're from, what local congregation you're from, and don't forget to hashtag that because we want to know where you're coming from.
Absolutely. And of course, because this is going to be a social media topic,
Mm,
I can bring some experts in, right? So
yes.
we've got a couple of experts that are joining us that are of the somewhat younger persuasion. We'd like to introduce another one of our hosts there in the Central Florida area as well, Sister Elida. Good morning, Sister Elida. How you doing?
Hello, good morning. Doing well. It feels really nice outside, so I feel good too.
Yeah, I'm thinking we should be having this show outdoors at some
I
point. I mean, we're
agree.
Hey,
we
yeah.
are in Florida. A lot of people, we talk about what the beauty of living in Florida is, and that's in March. We could be outside putting on some SPF 90, trying to prevent, that sunburn from happening in the middle of March, while some of our friends up north are still wearing their parkas and coats, right? So let's jump over back to Tampa because we've got another young person. I'm going to call it young people, Sister Joy. How about that? Because that way I actually feel a little better.
I like
His brother Tristan, who's joining us there from also in Tampa. Good morning, brother Tristan. How are you?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Yeah, I have to say, like, an outdoor show would be really nice right now. It's really great weather over here in Tampa, Florida. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like it's today. It's like going to be in the mid 70s, maybe 78 degrees. So yeah, we should just pack up and let's just go outside
let's
and
go.
move all the equipment. Well, I'm glad that you guys were all able to join us because today the topic is going to be about social media behavior and whether or not your social media behavior is considered cringy or cool. And cringy is probably something that my kids would say that my behavior is, but this is about self-assessment. So we're going to
So
do self-assessment, not assessment by your children, because that can be cruel. But we're going to be talking about what it is that are the different ways that you can measure social media behavior. So, I mean, let's just hop right into it. As we take a look at the different ways that you measure social media, there are a number of different categories, right? So when we take a look at it, we're going to start by actually looking at what are the different personas in social media. And if you're watching us here in on INC Radio in our chat, we love hearing from all of you guys. We've got a super engaging audience, and we're so grateful to you guys for continuing to do that. But we
absolutely.
want to hear from you about what you think your persona may necessarily be in the
Yeah, let us
beginning.
know.
And
Let us know.
then after we take this quiz, Sister Joy, we're going to find out really where we belong. How's that?
This is gonna be fun. I want to see too. I'm
Yeah, I
learning
know.
this too. Because I'm while I'm here, I'm not so big on social media, so I'm here to learn. Here to learn, and yeah, let's see.
I don't know. I'm a little concerned. I think I may be outing myself.
Are you afraid?
I'm very, very afraid. I don't know. We're gonna see here in a second what happens.
Okay.
But let's start by going through all of the different social media personas that typically most people who are on social media fall into. And of course, the first one is the overshare, right? So everybody knows somebody on your feed, whether it's a friend on Facebook, somebody you follow on Instagram, who just way overshare too much personal information, like I'm going to the grocery store, I'm leaving the house now, or can't believe that I had oatmeal for breakfast. Woo. So it's really a matter of what is that balance supposed to be. So we've got
Mhm.
fall into that category, the overshare, and I don't know if there's a way to measure that. I mean, do you guys, like, if you post every day but it's something that's meaningful, is it still considered oversharing, or is it because
You see, but I think that's where like there's a line, right? It's like, well, what is meaningful? I mean, oatmeal's meaningful for some
it
people.
is, I'm eating healthy.
Yeah, I
It's
was gonna say it just I think it depends on the person. Like if they think it's meaningful to them, then it must be meaningful.
Right?
maybe not to us, but maybe
well,
to
but
that
yeah,
person.
there you go. There you go. So it's
Maybe,
about
and that's what where that line is, right? And that's where it makes it kind of like, I mean,
well, we
I mean,
talk about like meaningful. That was a good point. Like meaningful to me may not be meaningful to the people who are viewing it because that's your audience, right? And then understanding your audience, I think, is where a lot of that comes from.
yes.
Because how do you read your audience, know your audience? So we're going to talk about that and how to measure that. That's part of the quiz we're taking. And by the way, if you are watching us and listening, I want you guys to grab a pen and a paper, a
Oh yeah.
napkin, a crayon,
I was gonna say you could take the
some
crayons
some
too,
writing
highlighter.
instrument, or a note, because we're all going to take this quiz together, because
Yes.
I'm not outing myself by myself. So all of
We're
us are
here
going
to
to have to work
support
on this
you.
quiz, right? So we want to see where we fall. So make sure that you got something to write with, because we're going to have to, and it's going to involve a little math. I'm sorry, today we're going to have to add the points at the end. So I've got my handy calculator. So you've got people who overshare. Then you've got the opposite, which is the ghost. And the ghost is somebody who is on social media, they've got an account, but they just don't ever post. They don't interact. They don't want to necessarily engage, but they love seeing what's going on with everybody else,
And
right?
that's the term. Is that there? Isn't there another term, right? Does
You
anyone
know
know?
what? This is where we need some help from our audience, because all
Yes.
of us were struggling with trying to figure it out. So the typically they refer to it as the ghost. The ghost is somebody who just watches but never really interacts. But I know that there's a social media term or a label that they use for it. The first word that came to mind was stalker, but no, that's not it. It's
I'm sure it's
definitely
a
not
much
it.
nicer term. Yeah.
But there's a term out there for someone who just loves to sit and watch others and their posts, but doesn't necessarily ever engage or post. And so, generally speaking, they call it the ghost. But I'm not exactly sure what that term would be. So, if you guys can help us out in the chat, please put it in there. For now, we're just going to call them a ghost, and until we
There
figure
you
out
go. Or
what
maybe
is
they won't mention it because they're
because they're
ghosts.
not really going to engage. They're just watching. That's true.
Oh,
They're just,
won't
they're
They
just
don't
know.
know who they
watching
are.
stuff. Then we have the other one, which is now this. I found this to be pretty funny, because this is, again, me outing myself. The influencer in training, right? So they always spend a ton of time trying to curate or perfect their post. They say specifically the image, because we know there's so many editing tools now on
Yeah.
social media, right? And when you're posting, you want to be able to obviously post something that is going to be both meaningful to you, but that's also something that puts forward your best image, I'm guessing is the best way that I could put it. Which I guess there's a big debate about that, right? Like, what's the reality? How real are you? Like, when you are posting on social media, are you posting like the moment, or you more, like the moment that you're trying to capture, or are you really posting more about the story that you want to tell?
Oh, that's a good
And
point. You see, I
and
think that's what what gets me because there's just so much time. Even though there are all these tools involved when it comes to like editing and being able to put content out there, it takes time. And
It does.
you know, with all
Yeah.
transparency, I'm like, I don't know if I have the time or the energy to actually edit things like that. And so I mean that's me. I'm
Well,
just
and the thing
share.
is, Joy, we were talking about this actually before the show, that you want an influencer in training, and they use the word influencer because influencers have become so popular, right? I mean, people are
Mhm.
making a living off of it, obviously, and so being an influencer is something that a lot of people try to strive for, and there is no age barrier.
Mhm.
There are people in their 70s that are out there that have millions of followers, right? That are influencers, but
Yeah.
it's really more about what is the content. And when you talk about being an influencer in training, it's like you spend so much time trying to perfect that story rather than capturing the moment and sharing
Yeah.
the moment that happened instead of fabricating, I guess is
Mhm.
the story. And I
Mhm.
think this is where I get outed, because if someone were to see my Instagram draft folder, they'd laugh at
Really?
how many draft stories have been started that have never been published because, like, in the moment, like, oh, this is going to be really cute, I something with my grandson or something with my
Yeah.
family, like this is a moment I want to be able to post and share. But
Yeah.
I spend so much time, which I have very little of, trying to add the right soundtrack to it, or editing the pictures together, or stitching the video so it's all timed. So I've got stuff in my draft that's probably from events that happened a year ago. So
I totally get that because I can only imagine because I love being in the moment. I love soaking up, the present, and just to think like, oh man, this would, the perfect song for this moment would be this. But then you're not, like to actually put that on a platform or social media platform, you have to search for the actual. Does this one have the lyrics? Does this one have the vocals? Is this instrumental? Things like that. And
I was
wow, that
gonna
is
I was gonna say that might be a difference in our generation, probably.
really
okay, this is
so
why we
fair.
have you guys on the show,
Yes,
because
exactly.
Like, yeah, between because I know, Brother Rob, you said you have a lot of drafts. Um, me me on the other hand, I'll post it and then I'll forget about it, and I'm just because I feel
Really?
like maybe that might be different, or maybe that's just me, but I post for my own self, like to just reflect back later. Like if I'm not happy with it, I'm not gonna post it, so I don't know if that's just me or if that's our generation, Brother Tristan. I don't know.
I
Is this
really like that,
or
because that gives perspective. Because
yeah.
I'm like that too. I'm like, man, I got to think about the song. This, I guess I'm thinking about all those nitty gritty things,
Yeah,
right?
I just post it and then I'm like, all right, if people like it, people like it. They don't. Oh well, I like it. That's just how I guess it is that just me? Or is that
I don't
just
know. Well, Tristan, I mean, you just came from a trip, right? So you were on a trip. You got to travel to some really cool places, and probably took in some very very interesting, very memorable events that happened, right? When you're on the trip, and so when you were there and you're posting, and I did see one or two posts. Is it more about trying to, like what Sister Lida said, like trying to capture the moment? Because, and that's a really good point, because to me, my social media has become almost like my archive of memories that I can go back to rather than trying to store everything on my phone. So what about you, Brother Tristan? I mean, are you more of a, I want to curate, make it really cool and something that I could share, or is it just, I just got to get it out there?
Right, yeah, I definitely like see both sides of it. I think that I strive to be that person, like Sister Elida said, where I just post it and I don't really care. But if I'm being completely honest with myself, I too take a lot of time sometimes when it comes to preparing what I'm gonna put out there. Um, but yeah, I've heard that mindset from some of my friends and before, where it's like, you shouldn't think too much about what you're posting on social media. You should do it for yourself. And that kind of mindset has kind of helped me more to be more in the moment, like Sister
Mhm.
Joy and Brother Rob said too. Because I think that if you spend too much time worrying about what you're gonna post, then maybe social media is taking a bit too much of your life, right? So I try to kind of balance both sides of the spectrum when it comes to that.
Well, it's funny because when you say it's taking up too much time of your life, that's the problem. Is that
Yeah.
because I don't have the time,
Right.
nothing ever gets posted. So,
Yeah.
you
Yes,
know,
yes.
very
You know
few
what?
things.
I will say that's how it was at first. Like in the beginning of me having social media, I was trying so hard to be that influencer, like to be so cool and have like the perfect picture, the
Uh-huh.
perfect pose, the
Right.
perfect caption. But like now it's definitely not like that anymore. But maybe that comes with like maturing or growing up. I'm not sure, but that's definitely what happened in my case. So
So apparently, I've not grown up yet.
that's okay.
Me,
So
me
It's
too.
okay.
I've not
So is
grown
that
up
Your
yet. So
so
kind
is
of,
it
childhood
a
at heart.
generational thing?
yeah, I'm still,
That's what I was saying. I think it's a generational gapper.
because I think at this point now I'm just waiting for like that one post to go viral that will get me to 10 million viewers so I can quit my job. That's the, you
And then
know,
that's
That's the
it.
hope.
That'll be like, all right, I'm done. That was
that
good.
one post. That's all it
Right.
is.
Oh my goodness.
Well,
Okay.
I'm going to do a better job of because there's obviously, especially now that I have a grandson, I want to be able to get more, engaged in watching him grow. But what's really interesting is the fact that I use, at least one of the platforms, Facebook. I've been on it since 2009, 2008, probably before Mark Zuckerberg was born. But it's, um, but I look back now, and it literally does become sort of that archive album of things because I have pictures in there from like when my daughter Kat, you know, she was 4 years old, 5 years old, and this is all stuff
Oh
that's
my.
there in these albums, watching her grow up. And when you use it as a platform to be able to do that for yourself rather than just worrying about what everybody else is going to think, it's very useful because then I've actually had to refer to it because like I've forgotten when certain events were, like when was it we went on this trip or whatever. I just go through that and then I can find it. So I think being an influencer in training as a persona is more of something aspirational that a lot of people want to do. But I think it's great advice that you guys give is like, if you're doing it for yourself, then you want to just put it out there. And yeah, if people like it, great. If not, then the intent was really to give yourself the opportunity to share that moment. So I'm going to check that box. I've probably already failed that on the quiz. So um, the next one is the troll or the drama magnet. We all know people or people that we may not necessarily know personally, but people who follow us or people that we've seen online who really they just thrive off of negativity, right? So
Yeah.
they always want to whatever the post is, it could be like the happiest post, like, oh, look at my beautiful puppy. And then they'll post like, what is that like a mix? Because that's not a very good looking dog. It's just people who just thrive on like conflict and controversy and it's
Yeah.
been really, I think, a challenge in social media today because it's so accessible and there's so many people on the platform that it's
Yeah.
hard to filter, right, those people. And obviously the ones who get really just egregious, you just end up blocking them. But
Yeah. Or they have that keyboard courage because it's not in
oh
person,
yeah,
Oh yeah.
right? So they say all these things and you're like, but that's my puppy.
yeah.
I love my
Right.
puppy.
And it's true because I think that social media and just being, the ability to be able to do these things from behind a screen and a keyboard without having to actually face the consequences of the things
Mhm.
they say emboldens so many people to just say what's on their mind that they typically would probably never say in person,
Yeah.
right?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
yeah, go ahead, say my puppy's ugly to my face. I dare you. Like that's not going to happen. But I think that's what's happening today is that now you've got more and more this kind of proliferation of people who really want to thrive on it because, and in some cases, sadly, it's because they know that that's what draws more views. All right.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
People are attracted to conflict, and therefore they know that if they do that, then more people will jump on and watch, which is
Oh,
really a sad way
that
of
is.
trying to really promote yourself. It's not in any way, shape, or form the way that you want to do that. So we're going to talk about that here in a little bit too about how to avoid being that. Then you've got the balanced user. I think this is what we all strive to be.
Yes.
People who are online, this, we aspire to be a balanced user. Um, well, no, I aspire to be an influencer with 10 million followers, but a balanced user is someone who actually engages very thoughtfully. They're meaningful with their intent when they're posting. It's things that they share that allow other people to be able to benefit from it. Really, that's the goal. So but in order to do this, though, we've got to understand the assessment that we have to take. And so this is where all of you pull out your paper
Be fun.
and your pens and your crayons, and we're going to take this quiz. Well, I'm writing it down on a whiteboard here, and we're gonna see. But we're gonna take the quiz and see where we fall. And it's there's no right or wrong answers. It is what it is. All right. And we're gonna take an assessment because this episode is about making that assessment. And in a future episode, we're gonna talk about ways to maybe improve your score. It's funny, your social media score. It's like your FICO score in credit, right? There's always ways to get it better, because if your social media score isn't high enough, then obviously you aren't going to be able to attract the followers, people that you want to be able to have follow you or engage with people, right, in the way that you want to do that. For some people, that's fine. They're on social media because I want my family back home in the Philippines to see how my kids are growing up and things like that. So perfectly fine. So here's the self-assessment. All right. And again, there is no right or wrong answer. You just have to be true to yourself and go ahead and give yourself a score for each of these categories, each one of the check boxes. You're going to rate yourself from a 1 to a 5. That's your scale, right? That's your Likert scale of 1 to 5, which is 1 equals I never do that. 5 is I always do that. And then 2, 3, and 4 is kind of that middle of the road. So depending on how close to always doing it versus I never do it. So it's 1 to 5 scale. And then at the end, this is where the math comes in. So get your calculators down, because we're going to need to add up those scores to see how it is that we do. All right. So
1 to 5.
1 to 5 on each one of these check boxes, right? So let's start with the very first one we talked about, which was engagement. So when we talk about the category of engagement, this is for our audience here, be honest with yourselves. I interact with others by liking, commenting, and sharing content. So do you always do it? That's a 5, or is it 1 is never? And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Remember, we said, are you obligated to have to like all of your friends' posts?
Yeah.
You know what? Is that another? Do you guys feel? I'm curious. What's your answer?
There's different ways, right? People will scroll through, and then what gets me is like the people who want to be able to show that they're online, they'll like everything. Like they'll literally scroll through and like, and in some cases not even look at what they're liking.
Yeah.
It's dangerous, right?
Yeah.
Because
This is true. I will say sometimes that happens to me. Like if I'm just scrolling because I feel like I haven't been on social media in a while, maybe. So I was like, all right, let me just show everyone I'm still here. And then next thing you know, maybe like a couple months later, I'm like, oh, when did I like this?
yeah,
Like, you
because
forget, you don't realize like, oh, when did I like this? That's so weird.
and
Oh,
that
good.
liking a post triggers an algorithm, right?
Oh,
Because
yes, that's true.
Yes.
when you like something, you've just told the social media machine that, oh, well, then we're going to show you other posts like that because you said
Yeah.
that you like it. And at the same time, your friends and other people that follow also see that, oh, Elida liked this post.
Yes, yes,
Controversial. I'm like, now people are like, oh, so that's the kind of post.
yes. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm like, I don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes I see stuff. I'm like, wait, I don't even remember liking this, or like you wouldn't think it's so different. It's crazy.
Well,
I
and
feel like, yeah,
no, I was just gonna say, I think interacting here is like, are you not a ghost? Are you
yeah.
actually interacting with
Oh,
on
okay.
a on a
That's
you know
what-
on a
okay.
balanced scale? So yeah, so I try to be balanced with it. Probably more of a scroller than a liker, but
Oh,
something I got to work on. So I give myself there probably about a 2.
I
Sadly,
give myself like a
But
4.
yeah, I'm gonna
That's
be
really fair content, I think. I like and comment.
So what about the next one? I respond to messages and comments in a timely and respectful manner. Those are two separate things, like timely and respectful.
I know,
right?
yeah.
Maybe those should have been two different text boxes, because I can be really respectful, but it might be a week later.
It might be way later, and the person forgot they commented.
What did I ask you again?
Yeah. Oh, when did I comment on this post?
Or like messages, right? Like sometimes you'll get messages in your Facebook Messenger or your direct message in Instagram, right?
I'm
And
so guilty of that, Brother Robert. So guilty. I feel like I never respond in a timely manner.
oh, I've had to apologize. I've had to apologize because like
Wow.
people will send you stuff into your direct message because they want to share something with you personally and not necessarily on your story or your feed. And that was for a purpose, right? And in some cases, like even asking questions. Like I have some titas, some aunts that actually use it to like instead of texting me. Like, why would you send it to me in Facebook
Yeah,
Messenger?
Yeah, I think that's the thing, right? Because isn't that that's a separate, like you actually have to go in a separate file or a
Yeah,
separate
that I
folder,
never go to. Like, why would you
Yes.
send me messages like that?
right?
If you're gonna text me, text me. Um,
Yeah.
so the third one is I engage in
2020.
meaningful conversations rather than just scrolling. So this is all, remember, the categories engagement. So 1 being you never do that. 5, you always engage in meaningful conversations rather than just scrolling. So if you're a ghost, then obviously you score 0 on all 3 of these because you're not engaging. So we're hoping that you're not a ghost. So make sure that you're keeping tabs on your score there, and feel free to jump in on the chat and let us know any of these that like speak to you, right, or make you feel very, very seen when you see these. So authenticity is I present a genuine version of myself when I'm online. Yes, I am 6'2" and I am 120 pounds.
I
Absolutely.
believe it.
Absolutely I am. So, and I guess this goes with like that whole thing about editing, right? You know, like how much
Yeah.
of the images, and I mean, there was stuff that I saw on Instagram. There's an entire account on Instagram that tells you how you should pose when you are taking
True.
your photos to give yourself the right, like, you know, it flattering, to make yourself look more
Yes.
flattering.
Yeah,
I
I've
need a
seen.
lot of help with that one. Like,
Yes,
like
I
I'll send you the
disagree
account.
with
I'll send you
that,
the account.
Sister Joy. I disagree with you.
oh, wow.
I
Like, how
don't
about when it
think
comes to your tacos? Like, if you want to show your tacos, like here,
Yeah, well, oh yeah, no, even that. When I talk about flattering, I'm not
wow.
just talking about yourself, but I'm saying like just how to make the photos flattering, like, you know, food photo. It's so sad because
it's
my family knows that they can't go to a restaurant and start eating until after I've taken pictures of all the food.
that's my
Right?
husband,
How many of you
Brother
guys
Billy.
do that? Seriously, how many of you guys in the chat like take pictures of your food that your family already knows and have to ask, "Can I eat it now?" Because
I'm so putting Brother Billy out there because this is my kids are like, come on, Dad, can you please just I want to eat my burger, I
Oh.
want to eat my tacos, I want to eat, whatever.
so I have an account that I'll send you, Brother Billy, that'll help you take better, faster photos of the food so your family can eat. But it's
Or sometimes one of the kids are like, oh, I'm already eating it.
Oh, no.
well, it's funny if somebody does do that where they're eating the food and they've eaten it before they were supposed to, and it's like then you have to move the French fry over to cover
Oh
the
yes,
empty space.
that's
So
definitely my
you
dad.
you turn the cake around because somebody already took a bite out of it, just so that you know, the part that's not eaten. So you know, presenting a genuine version of yourself or your food is authenticity number 1. Give yourself a rating from 1 to 5. And then what about I don't overly filter or edit my photos to create a fake image. Um, I've seen some photos of people online where I'm like, do you really look like that? I guess it's okay if you don't ever plan on meeting the person
Right. And
in real life, right?
that's where that line of social media is. Like, how much are you willing to edit? And like, what are the odds that you'll never meet that person in real life? You know, you can bump into them. It's so, yeah, I feel like that's a little bit of like a it's a line that you got to be
Yeah.
careful there.
Not
Like,
to cross,
what are you doing?
right?
Yeah, are you trying to be an influencer where you won't meet everyone that is interacting, or are you doing it for just like, like you're saying, for archives and like looking back on it? So yeah.
Wouldn't that be like considered cringe though? You look back on, you're like, whoa,
Oh yes,
so
yes,
look at my hair.
yes,
I had hair, one of those
yes.
things.
I agree
Or
with that.
you're wondering, I wonder if that shirt's back in style.
Or,
Can-
or like, oh
can-
my gosh, I used to do my hair like that. I
Yeah,
used
like
to do my makeup
whoa.
like that. What?
when you've got like 15-year history on a certain Facebook platform that has all of the evidence of everybody growing up, then that's definitely one thing that you want to be sure that you go back. And if anything, that's a way for you to kind of have a good laugh with family, at the same time. But oh yeah, filtering photos, and one of the things though, the real world issue with doing that sometimes is because that's how some people get caught in catfishing, right?
Oh yes,
Mhm.
which
catfishing.
is which is a real, and if you're not familiar with the term, that means that people are pretending to be something that they're not, just to be able to reach out and engage with somebody, which can have some really bad consequences. So
Mhm.
just trying to stay real. So authentic. How much filtering do you use on your photos to make you look a lot different than you actually are? 1 to 5 on that scale again. What about I share both my successes and challenges rather than just my highlight reel of my life?
Ooh,
I
good
think
one.
this is true though for a lot of people,
Ooh.
right? I mean, there's a lot of people that really focus on, and maybe that's fine if you just want to share positivity. Because for me, I think
Mhm.
my personal approach to social media is only sharing positivity, because
Absolutely.
that's part of the role that I want to play, is to be able to talk about the good things, because
Mhm.
there's so much negativity anyway. You don't need anybody else telling you about
Oh
their
yeah,
negativity,
sure.
right?
Bring the positive vibes for sure.
Right.
Yeah,
So
me too. Definitely positive over the challenges.
same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I think that that's a big part of it, because some people will argue that, well, no, because that's not being authentic. Well, but it's authentic to what my purpose is,
Right.
Mhm.
There you go.
Exactly.
There you go. You said it
right?
perfectly, Rob. Yes.
So I'm being authentic to the reason why I'm on that platform.
Mm-hmm.
So make you guys keeping track of your scores, okay?
Yeah.
Because and
Yes.
we're not grading on a curve. So how about content quality? Whenever you're posting content, it's something that's valuable, it's entertaining, it's right? This kind of goes along with the thing we were just talking about, which was sharing positivity, right? Um,
Mhm.
and positivity comes in many forms. If it's something that's funny, it's a joke, or if it's something that's a good tip, right? A life hack. I love posts where it's like, oh, what's the line they say? It's like, I was years old when I discovered blah, and it's always some
Yes.
some weird life hack that
Mhm.
I never knew, like
Oh,
what
I
the
was
purpose.
today years old. I was today
I was
years.
today. Yeah, that's it. I was today years old when I discovered that you know the aluminum foil wrapper thing has these two little notches that go and actually hold the roller in place. Just some of the most ridiculous things, because you just never knew it. And I think that is considered valuable. It's a tip,
There you
for people to be able to follow a life hack, something informative. But when you're sharing something, quote, informative, and you think it's informative, just be sure that you're checking your sources, okay? Because
absolutely.
there's
That is
there's
true.
there's enough fake news that circulates
Yeah.
outside of social media. We don't need to use that as a platform to do that as well. So
Mm.
making sure, where do you fall on that scale, 1 to 5? How about I avoid spreading misinformation or clickbait? Oh, clickbait. I have
Ooh.
I have such
Clickbait.
a
I think
yeah.
is that word for the um I see that a lot with popular influencers, like people who like only post because that's like their job. That's where I see the
Yeah.
most clickbait.
Ah.
Even like YouTube, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think YouTube actually is probably a bigger culprit for it, but a lot of stuff on like Facebook and stuff now too, because
Oh,
the whole point is they want people to just click on the link, because every time you click on that link, that click is what drives more of that revenue for them.
Or yes.
So, the driving clickbait traffic. But what happens is that doesn't really create a lasting audience, right?
Right.
You're not going to get that same level of engagement. You're not going to get, or you may get engagement, but you're definitely not going to get the sustainability with people wanting to stay on your platform or stay on your account, because then they're going to realize like everything I click on doesn't mean anything, right? And especially when it comes to like headlines, got to be
Mhm.
careful about the headlines. So,
Oh yeah.
how about my posts reflect my personality, my interests, or my expertise? And is that more about, I guess, sharing about yourself, right? And wanting to share about yourself or sharing about your family. Scaling that from 1 to 5, I guess, is really more about really what is your purpose
Yeah.
in line.
I think that's what I love about social media is that you can show what you're interested in and
Mhm.
personality, and people who have that same personality or interest, it allows more interaction. I think to me, that's what I love about social media is like you can reach out to people that live far, maybe someone in
Mhm.
Pensacola, they
Yeah.
also love to crochet, like, but you would never know that
Mhm.
social media wasn't there if you didn't show that you like that too. So I think I like that a lot about social media. Same thing like with family too. Like how would they know what you're up to if social media is not there? It has its pros and cons, I think.
Well, I think that's a really good point. Like
Yeah.
all of us joined different stages in life because for different reasons, like different purposes. So like we'll just go down the line here. Sister Joy, when you jump on social media, or the reason you started social media, what was it for? Was it more for like connecting with family? Was it to find interesting things that other people have similar interests with you on, or was it to get those 10 million followers? Or
Oh, like when social media first came out, I wasn't a mom yet. And so it was more like connecting with others that were far and even those that were close to me. It was more like, hey, this is what's going on, this is what we're eating, this is what we're doing. And then, you know, I started to have kids and I'm like, I don't have the time. And it kind of went over like I was like, maybe I'll post a photo a day. I don't know
oh
if that
man,
ever.
that's
We all had that goal. I actually think that was like a trend. I
there was
right?
There was?
Wasn't it a trend?
on
Like post
Instagram. I actually tried it once. It was the 365-day challenge
yeah.
Was
where
that so am I
you were
aging myself? Was that like a that was a trend back then, right?
It was.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Sadly, I made it to day 25.
That's pretty good.
You guys, I think I made it to like day 3 and I'm like,
Yeah, no,
I'm
that's
just
pretty good.
tired.
Well, and it's funny because that's the exact purpose of that challenge was, take a photo every day that's something memorable, and then you have to put like a caption to it, right?
Mhm.
So it was like, oh yeah, well, I'm playing Xbox today. And so it's a picture of my Xbox. It just becomes to that point. Are you oversharing because now it's not meaningful? Now I'm just
Yeah.
taking a picture because I want to take a picture because I
Yeah.
have to, right? Because I'm trying to meet this challenge.
Right.
And I mean, as simple as it sounded, trying to decide out of all the things that happen in my 24 hours of
Yeah.
day, what's the moment that I want to capture and actually post? And that's why I only got up to day 25, because then I said, I've run out of
That's
things.
good. I think that's a goal. That was a goal because for me by day 3, I'm like, okay, let me post this. Wait, don't touch that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, no.
I can't believe you ate that shrimp.
I know
It was
that's
in
a
the perfect
crayon. You don't eat that, like so yeah, and now and that's why I think it kind of like scarred me from that time. I'm like, oh, I'll jump on here if I need to, but that's why I'm
Well, I think we've drawn, like what Sister Lida was mentioning is like it's both generational, but it's also like as you've been on it, because I've been on like Facebook for so long that
Mhm.
my use of it has really changed. Like before, when I was first on it and everybody was on it, it was really popular. I was posting albums from all of our vacations, so you
Mhm.
could see what all the different places, but serving more as a way for me to remember my failing memory. You know, where did I go? What did, you know? It's like you know, the way that I have a virtual photo album, you
Mm-hmm.
know, with captions, you know, rather than just photos. I actually remember who I was with and what we were doing and the interesting things that came up. But like trying to do all of these different challenges back then, you know, that was when it was still very, very new and very
Mhm.
trendy. Well, where now it's just a lot less frequent. I think most of the stuff that I post on Facebook now is sharing our stories from here on INC Radio Florida and trying to get, you know, obviously as much viewership through that platform, you
Yeah.
know. So that's a way of trying to leverage that. But when you're looking at, you know, you're sharing your personality and your interests and your expertise, I think that that's just one way, depending on how it is and why it is you joined. So like for you, Brother Tristan, you're in kind of at a different era than Sister Joy or myself. Like joining social media for you, what was that purpose more for? Was it because everybody was doing it, or was it?
Right. Yeah, I think when I first joined social media and got Facebook and Instagram, I was still like pinky in probably middle school or high school. So I guess at that time it was more because everyone else was doing it. So I guess it was something that was expected of me too. Probably Sister Lida, similar reason. But now that I'm older, I think it's more about just keeping it to connect with others, you know? And like Sister Lida said before, really good points. Like without social media, I wouldn't be able to know what my friends are doing that are across the country, right? And that's something that I think that it's really useful for nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
I guess using it more as a tool rather than a way of life, I
That's a
guess,
good
is
point.
something that
Yeah, that's
Oh
true.
yeah, yeah, for
That's
sure.
true.
That's
I like
funny.
That's a
the way
mature
you said
way of putting it, right?
yeah,
Like,
I like the
you
way
know,
you said that. The like
yeah.
instead of using it as like what like your life is based on or depends on, you're
Yeah,
Yeah,
using
it
it.
like the
doesn't
oatmeal
it
you
doesn't
ate this
define you.
morning.
Yeah, yeah. It's a good
And
right.
you
thing.
know what, Tristan, I have a question then. So you said when you first started, right? So when you look back at like the post in your earlier times, you know, when you first started, do you cringe when you look at any of that or when you
Yeah,
think about it?
I
You
do.
do?
They're deleted. They're deleted now.
Yeah,
You know what though?
that's
That
that's the
digital
beauty
footprint
of
is
being
always
control.
there.
They're gone.
That's so funny. You know what? Maybe I think that is that another generational thing? Because I also deleted all those cringy ones too.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we do an audit. We do an audit every
Yeah,
few
we do an
years.
audit every year. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Going going through and I guess that's the difference between that and like if your parents have social media and all of those posts of you guys when you were kids that will stay on there forever
Yes.
and you don't have control to delete them versus your own personal self social media audit. Maybe that's what we'll call it.
Yes.
Wow.
Where you kind of do that cleanup. Well, and you've got other things too, like you know, people who go through and clean up their social media on the regular because of past relationships that didn't end well,
Oh,
and
that's true.
Oh, yeah.
like that's so much work. That's
Yes.
so
Yes,
much
I
work. Like,
know.
well, I took, you know, me and my ex boyfriend or girlfriend had like 1,000 photos that I've got to now go through and clean up, and it's just better off just to
Yeah.
start a new account.
Oh
Yeah.
man. Mine would be so uninteresting and be like, man, my past relationship with spaghetti is not the same anymore. I have to have it with breadsticks.
My taste buds
Oh
have
no! Now
changed.
I'm no no now I'm lactose intolerant, so I've got to get rid of all those photos. I can't do it anymore. Okay, so well now let's move on. We're nearing the end here. So frequency and consistency. I post regular but not excessively. So I guess this is, you know, is it one I never or five I always post regularly but not excessively. And excessive is kind of a subjective term, right? So
Yeah. Like
that's
what is
you know, if I'm in that 365-day challenge, then I'm expected to be putting photos up every day. But you know, is like three or four photos a day of everything you've done since you got up at 7 o'clock this morning.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna ask, what is that gauge? Like, what is regularly and what is excessively?
Yeah,
like
I don't know. I think it's something that's up for interpretation. But like
Okay.
that's why it's called a self-assessment. Do you think that
ah
you post regularly or not too excessively? Or is it one
Reflection.
never, five to always? So, again, got to be honest with yourself. Let me see, how am I doing? Yeah, I've got to get some extra points here because I'm falling behind.
You also want to
Um,
see my score. I'm like adding like, ooh.
I'm doing
what
okay.
about this one? This one. How about I don't spam my followers with unnecessary updates, which is, I guess, that kind of goes in line with being too excessive.
Okay.
Like 7 a.m. got up to go to the gym. 7:40 leaving the gym.
Yeah.
8 o'clock getting my coffee after the gym. It's,
Yeah.
But you know what? This
Have
is
you?
where I have a question because, like, like, or it says I don't spam my followers. So, I mean, don't followers have the ability to adjust their updates and notifications? So,
That's true.
right? So,
yeah,
I
I guess it's
mean,
called
you
muting.
could,
You can mute. You
Yeah, you
can
can
mute the
feel
followers.
people now. Yeah.
right?
No, it's definitely different for
So,
sure.
like when Elida said, like, she's like, well, I'll post, right? You can post what's important to you, and if you're in that moment. So would it still be considered spam? Which actually spam sounds so good right now.
I'm a little hungry.
Also very
Um,
hungry. That sounds so good.
Spam with
But
rice.
yeah, it's I think that that's the thing, is that like the ability for you to control what's going into your feed today
Yeah.
is a huge leap. Because
Mm.
when social media first started, you had to take it all. Whatever it was that people were sending, you were going to get it, or you just ended up unfollowing them. And in
Right.
some cases, people want to be able to keep up with them, but they want to keep up with them at their own pace or their own discretion,
Mhm.
right? So they don't want to necessarily be force fed everything. They're like, oh, if I want to check on what's going on with that person, then I'll just go to their feed and kind of scroll through it themselves. So you've got to stay a follower. You've got to stay friends with them. But muting it, I think, is a great way to be able to say, look, I just don't want to hear from you, but I want to see everything, but I don't want to hear from you.
I'm curious,
Um,
brother Tristan. Do you remember that trend where I don't know if it's a trend, but it was like there's a thing going around saying like if if you didn't take a picture, it didn't happen. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh,
Like if you
Oh
don't,
right, yeah.
yeah, like if you don't have a picture, it didn't happen. So that's why I see sometimes like I'm gonna out myself out here sometimes when I go to the gym. I haven't been in a long time, but when I go to the gym, I take a picture and like I'm like if I didn't
I'm at,
take it, it didn't happen. So
I'm
Right.
at the gym entrance, and now I'm going out to the parking lot. So
yeah, and then
take a
you just
picture of
leave,
each
and then you
equipment.
leave. Yeah, you leave right away. But at least you took the picture.
That's awesome.
Do you remember that? Is that like a thing still, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think like it's a mindset for sure that some people have. I've heard of it before, yeah.
Yeah, like you have to take a picture or else it never happened because like who's gonna tell you it happened other than
well,
your
what
phone?
when I think what's really changed a lot, though, because before social media existed, then like people just told stories, right? They would just tell
Yeah,
you, I did so and so, I did that, and you just kind of took it at face
you
value,
just took it.
right?
Yeah, I took their word
Oh,
for it.
very cool. But now it's like, yeah, look, it happened because I took a picture.
Yes, exactly.
We have to flip through a photo album and said, see, I was
I
there.
went
Oh,
there. Yeah.
but you know what's scary, though, is that AI has gotten so progressive that I can literally be sitting on the couch watching TV, and I can just go ahead and put myself in a gym,
Oh,
Oh
and
yeah,
or
you're putting
yeah.
ideas into our head. No.
yeah, exactly. Like all those biking photos of me you guys people
It's
saw,
not real.
none of it is real.
They're,
Not.
None of it is real.
they're
I don't know how to
legend.
ride
That's
a bike.
so
I was
I
funny.
don't
gonna say, do you
know
even know how to ride a bike?
No, he doesn't know how to ride a bike. He has like you don't have legs either.
yeah,
Like you
yeah,
just there's
I'm
nothing.
I can't.
That's so funny.
But that's what's dangerous, right? Because this
Yeah.
whole thing about saying, well, I'm here, I took a photo, and since I took a photo, it happened. But we also have to, that's great, but that's, why do you need proof of it?
Right.
I guess
Right.
accountability, like going to the gym, it makes sense because you're trying to create sort of this air of accountability where people know. Because then, if I didn't post a photo of me at the gym for 2 weeks, then people are going to say, "Hey, when was the last time you were at the gym?"
Yeah.
That's
Lida,
true.
that's when you could pop up the other photo of you at a different like piece
That's
of
what I'm
equipment.
saying. You know what, Sister Joy? You're onto something here because that's what people do. Some people they take pictures and they don't post it right away. They post it when they're not there. So like I've
Wow.
seen some where like
I do that.
yeah, you know how
Did
you
you
like
say you do that?
yeah, no,
I
with
do.
vacations. Don't you do that with vacation?
No.
Like I sometimes do
Yeah,
that.
like
It's like
vacations, yeah.
yeah, with vacations.
Because
Like
the
Oh,
mindset is like while you're there, you want to not think about it. So you
yes.
post it when you're like later.
Yeah, when you're like gone, when you're back here,
Right.
you're back here.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm super late with a lot of the stuff that I post. So it's like people will be like, "Oh, we'll have a fun time." Oh, I've been back for 2 weeks.
Oh, I've been yeah,
Right.
like that was a while ago.
I'm here. Or well, it's funny though, but when you do it more deliberately, because like I know I'm not going to go to the gym, so I'm just going to go to the gym this one time, and I'm going to change into 4 outfits,
Yeah.
and and then I'm going to stockpile them. So this is my Tuesday post. This is my Wednesday post. Here's my. That's.
I think Brother Rob does that when he bikes.
I think,
I think he just
well, remember, I
gets
don't
tripped.
bike. It's all CGI.
That's just a trick.
But the thing is that I think people do that because of accountability, which is a good thing. But then when you end up putting yourself in a position where, oh shoot, I didn't do it, so now you're like posting these older photos, like,
Right.
wait a minute, you said you were at the gym, but your hair is a lot shorter than it
Yeah.
was. It's, how'd your hair grow so fast?
exactly.
So you'll always get busted. Just know that. You'll
Mhm.
always get busted. How about maintaining a balance between being online and offline? So this is, I think, to Brother Tristan's point, that social media is a tool. It's not your life. It shouldn't
Mhm.
define your life. So be sure that you're able to grade yourself fairly about that. And then now, last last category, digital etiquette. Digital etiquette. I avoid toxic behavior like arguing, trolling, and cyberbullying. I hope none of our followers are any of these three things,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Online, because I think, that's just really kind of takes away from the purpose of trying to create that whole positive platform.
Exactly.
Um, so nobody here should be a 1. Everybody should be like a 4 or a 5 on this,
Mhm.
this category. Now, how about I respect others' opinions and differences? Well, I mean, there's
Yeah.
lots to say. If you're going to post it on social media, but you don't expect anyone to ever disagree with you, then maybe you shouldn't post it,
Agreed. I've heard that as well. Barbara, yeah. Mhm.
right? If you don't think that you can take take the heat, then get
Yeah.
off the platform. So
Mhm. Mhm.
that's one of the basic rules. And then the last one is I always think before I post. I try to avoid content that could offend or harm others. Now, especially on social media because of that whole keyboard warrior mentality, right?
Yes.
Hiding behind that persona on your social media platform or your profile. Do you think before you post, or is it, oh well, because nobody knows who I am, I'm just going to go out there and post whatever I want, regardless of how it's going to make people feel? So that's, again, 1 to 5 is that rating, and hopefully everybody again is more heavily leaning towards the 4 and the 5 sections, because I like to think that we have a very, very well balanced audience. We do have a very well
We
balanced
do.
audience. I think so. Our audience is awesome.
Ooh,
Our viewers are some of the best. We're going to talk to them here in just a second. So here's your score, people.
right
All
here.
right,
The
here you
moment.
go. Where did you fall at? Break out your calculators and add up your points. Okay. So I'm taking out my napkin right now and I'm going to add up everything.
Here.
But
Okay.
on your quiz, if you scored a 35 to 25, then that means you're a social media star. You're well balanced, you engage, and you're very authentic in your presence. Keep it up. And then 24 to 15, social media, work in progress. You're doing okay, but you can improve definitely in some areas about maybe being more mindful with your engagement, how authentic you are, and maybe the etiquette. Etiquette, I'm not worried about with our audience. Our audience are rock stars when it comes to that. But social media red flags. If you were a 14 or a 7, then just basically cancel all your accounts, because
Yeah.
just don't.
Red flag.
Just don't. Just watch more of our show, and then that'll help you, kind of improve your social media FICO score, because we want everybody here to be able to obviously have a very pleasant experience when they're online. But if your habits maybe need some serious adjustment, maybe you need to post with more intent and work on engaging, because if that's what you're on the platform for, again, this is very subjective, because for some people, I'm perfectly happy just being on social media and not posting a single thing. Like the last thing, there's some people on social media, they've got an account, but the last thing they posted was like in 2018.
Are you talking about me?
Yeah. And then you're like, but they don't look like that anymore. Oh, that was 8 years ago.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
that's
Well, but what also happens is that a lot of these platforms have these like stories, right? Instagram stories, Facebook stories, which are designed to share in the moment, but then they also go away. They disappear. And the only person who has access to it is the account owner. But it's different than when you're putting stuff in your feed, which is like it keeps it up there forever. And for me, in the beginning, that's what I was doing, is I was keeping everything there forever, because it was a way for me to be able to go back and see, oh wow, I had a mustache back then. But yes, I did, and you can see it, but only if we're friends on Facebook from a very long time ago. But the score is really going to depend on where you fall in the different categories. So I'm going to out myself here. I actually am okay. I'm a 31. So
mine now.
I'm
So
somewhat balanced. I'm at a 31. So tell us what your score is if you're okay with it online, and let us know in the chat how you guys did. How did you do, Sister Joy? Where'd you end up falling?
I'm adding it now. But so keep in mind, I did score 1 for a few of them, because I don't really I don't have like
Yeah,
so okay, so I'm right now I'm at 18, and then that is,
hey,
I got I got 33.
what?
Yes.
All right, I'm dropping all of my accounts.
And I had whoa. Well, I scored myself like 2.5 on like some of the stuff, because I'm like, oh, I don't really, I mean, if I were on social media, this is what, this is what I would do. But that's
Not
so
bad.
cool. I
There
got
you
star.
go. Give yourself a high five. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. What about you, Brother Tristan? Where did you end up falling?
I got a 24.
20.
So
Oh, so
Okay.
close. Look at that. You were
work
right
in
on the cusp.
progress, yeah.
Right on the cusp. Maybe you need to put out one more post, and that'll push you over
I
the
know,
Yeah,
edge.
right?
I think that's it. I
You're
think
one
that's it.
post away from being a rock star. So
Whoa.
Maybe you need to comment on someone's post or something.
in our live
Let me
chat
do
right now. What about you, Sister Elida, before we wrap up? What was your score?
I got 30. So
All right.
yeah.
Yeah, there you are. You're a star.
Yeah, I would
You
say
get a star.
but I will say I don't post much on like my posts, like actual posts like on your thing, but I post a lot on my story. So
That is another generational thing, I think.
yes,
I think
yes.
people of my generation, when social media didn't exist yet, is that we're using it as a way to memorialize things that we want to be able to go back to easily. I know stories, you can kind of go back to them,
Yes.
but I think that with a lot of these today, a lot of people who are younger in social media, they love stories. Why? But they're the people who the last post that they see in their feed is like from 2018. But that's because everything is in their stories.
Yeah.
And which is great. I mean, because it's a way for you in the moment to be able to show what it is that you wanted to display to them. So I'm hoping that our audience, I feel very confident that we have a very, very good audience. Sister Jennifer Trinidad says, just wait a minute, she's got to go and find her abacus to be able to add up all these points. So I think there's a comment for the show. Thanks for tuning in, Sister Jen, there in Cerritos, California. Hope you find your abacus. But we're hoping that you guys did your self-assessment. You're satisfied with your score. If you're not, in the upcoming show, we're going to talk about how you're going to elevate that social media FICO score for you, because we want everybody to have good social media credit. It's important to do that, right? So, but of course, we are the fastest now. I can say 60 minutes on radio because it's now the bottom of the hour. But please stay tuned. INCRadio Washington, D.C. is coming up next. This is Brother Robert here in Tampa for Sister Joy in Orlando, for Sister Elida there in Orlando as well, and Brother Tristan here in Tampa. Have a great Saturday, and we'll see you next week on INCRadio Florida.
This is INCRadio, DZEM 954, the voice of truth, the official radio station of the Church of Christ or Iglesia ni Cristo.